Hey, welcome, folks. Yeah, it's been a few. I've been working on some other projects, and we're gonna really do some. Next couple ones are gonna really dig into some ones that have problematic on YouTube. Mainly Jimi Hendrix and some of the King Crimson members' side projects, solo projects, etc. I'm gonna do a little medley of different stuff, but. For the Hendrix, yeah, I'm gonna jump into some of his early stuff, and when I mean early, I mean pre the Experience, or not actually pre the band, but pre their first album output. So 65, 66 into 67. I'm gonna do a few songs. So I've touched on these a little bit in all my years, but really I didn't know for years. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know about it. This was a very confusing part of his career, and I've sort of found there's some informationally some websites out there that you can find early Hendrix, which really sort of dig in deep to the contractual issues that he was having, some of those demo recordings, jam sessions with Curtis Knight. Anyway, before I dig in a little bit to the informational side, just to give a timeline of what was going on in his career. I'm going to jump into one of his early ones, which June 1966, and this was written by Jimi Hendrix, and Jerry Simon, possibly. Producer was Jerry Simon. Recorded at Allegro Sound Studios, New York City. With and this is the key component that was always a mystery to me, like who was playing on this besides Hendrix, who was the drummer, who was the bass player, who was on keyboards, if there were some. So this one has Marion Booker on drums, Napoleon Anderson on bass, and Nathaniel Edwards, aka Nate Edmonds, on organ. And so this is some of his early stuff. Like there's a lot of other recordings you might find, demo sessions for Hendrix in this period with Curtis Knight, but most of them, the sound quality obviously is not great. These weren't mixed down to studio quality necessarily, and sometimes the mixes are all over the place. And the songs themselves are, they're works in progress as far as I can tell. But I've picked a few. One on these early sessions that stands out. And then on the 1967 July recordings, I'm going to pick out a couple that really, one of them has some ties to an early Experience composition, but really stand out in his improvisation, and his give him some extended time to really explore. So, without further ado, let's just dip in a little bit to June 1966, some Hendrix recordings, and we're going to hit this one called Knock Yourself Out, aka Flying on Instruments. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, so obviously this has got some of his foundational blues styles all over it here. And I just wanted to check on the age of Hendrix at the time. So November 1942, born. This was 66. So yeah, he's around 25 at the time, or 23. Wait, 66, 42. Yeah, around 23 at the time. So yeah, always obviously already very well developed in the sort of blues, the blues themes, the scales, the chords. But yeah, his style is all over this. And in this mix, it's great because like he's so hot in the mix. He's like on top of the drums. He's on the bass is like very kind of buried and inarticulate. You can't hear very clearly what they're doing. But obviously they're staying just in the pocket pretty well, and the drums are staying in the pocket, other than the little transitional, flares here and there. But yeah, his sound on this is really cool because it sounds like the stereo mix. They don't sound like they're together 100%. They sound like there's a little hint of either with the reverb or the delay. There's a little bit of delay from right to left. So it sounds like they did something to sort of separate them just a little bit. So they sound almost like they're two different parts, just slightly apart. But yeah, it sounds really awesome. The reverb and his tone, it must be coming right from the amp. I don't know if he's using pedals on this. So yeah, this picture I have, this is probably from the 67 sessions, because this was just post of the release of the Experience, Jimi Hendrix Experience first album, Are You Experience. So you can tell he's already in his his clothing and stuff. He's already sort of separated himself from the rest of the crew there at the studio, who still feel like a sort of Motown vibe in the 60s. And he's like, yeah, he's on another planet. So yeah, let's continue this. I'm going to kick it back just a little bit. But yeah, that solo is just, you can tell like he just gets to run wild over this pocket that the drum and organ and bass have set for him. So let's turn it back a little bit more. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, we had a really extended outro there, allowing everybody to sort of feel it out a little bit, and yeah, it feels like, give Hendrix a little bit of space, and he'll take it up for solo after solo if you let him. If you can tell, he was sort of wondering like, is this going out? We're gonna fade out. They probably do a lot extra in the end because it allows them to pick the fade out point or give them some extra roll to deal with later editing wise. But anyway, so that was Knock Yourself Out, 1966 in June. And here's where we get to. So I'm going to do a couple more, and I'll give a little bit of the background on these dates, because these next two are going to be really close to each other and kind of similar in style, but they have different. I just have to play both of them because they have such a really awesome, great output for this period. So let me get into a little bit of what was going on after this. So obviously, 65, 66, he had a relationship with Curtis Knight. He sort of had a relationship with, apparently he was introduced to him in October 5th, 1965, in the American Hotel in New York. Through Curtis Knight, they started recording with Ed Chalpin and had a number of sessions throughout 1965, 1966. Now, 1966 was, as far as well known, was the Jimi Hendrix Experience's first gig at the Novelty in Overaux on October 13th, 1966 in Paris. Earliest known recorded performance was the Olympia Theater in Paris on October 18th, 1966, 5 days later. And the Jimi Hendrix Experience was released in May 1967. Now, he had an arrangement with Al Chalpin through PPX. PPX Recordings label through Ed Chalpin at the time. So when he went with the Experience, got on UK label Polydor and the US record label Reprise Records, that put him in a little bit of hot water with Ed Chalpin. And the Jimi Hendrix Experience made their U.S. debut at the Monterey Pop Festival, June 18th, 1967. And after that, went on tour with the Monkees after the successful debut. And Ed Chalpin had, in the meantime, had gotten a court process going for breach of contract. So he insisted that he had Jimi under exclusive contract until the 15th of October, 1968. So Jimi had put out the Are You Experienced, released in 1967 in May. So apparently in another year and a half, he was officially under contract to Ed Chalpin. So while the court process was still in progress, Jimi again recorded with the plaintiff, Ed Chalpin, in July and August of 1967. Apparently, after, going out with finishing the tour and the Monkees, got together with Curtis Knight and just wanted to start doing some more recordings or just jamming. I don't know if he wanted to record, but he wanted to jam. And he had a thing with Ed Chalpin's studio there in New York. Really felt comfortable there. Maybe missed the, the guys he was playing with. Had a different style. So he wanted to work on some Knight songs to participate in a jam session. So he did this despite the ongoing breach of contract lawsuit that was going on with Ed Chalpin. And due to, as said in some of the court documents, some of the testimony between Curtis Knight, Jimi Hendrix, and Ed Chalpin, during this session, there was definitely some conversation with Hendrix and Ed Chalpin saying, like, don't put my name on these recordings. Don't use my name. Basically wondering, like, these, technically saying that he wanted these to be anonymous jam sessions, blah, 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 but he did not want these going out as Jimi Hendrix recordings. But the court at the time allowed, basically favored for Ed Chalpin, allowed him to release the Curtis Knight studio recordings featuring Hendrix from 1965 until 1967. And even additionally, Jimi had to deliver an album's worth of new recordings, which ended up being the Band of Gypsies LP released in 1970. So that was delivered to Ed Chalpin. So that was outside of his Jimi Hendrix Experience recordings. And so what ended up happening was Al Chalpin released these tapes to hundreds of companies, as you may see them out in, online everywhere. So they're under different names, different sources, different mixes, different, all kinds of different, basically allowed hundreds of companies over the last 30 years, creating the most confusing jungle of different mixes and edits of the material imaginable. So, as far as the guitar, so what these recordings are those July 17 recordings with Ed Chalpin and Curtis Knight and a couple other guys, as I'll mention. But yeah, shortly, these were basically post-Jimi Hendrix Experience album, had been about a month since it'd been out, and went back into the studio just to jam, and these got released as sessions with Curtis Knight. Not the Jimi Hendrix Experience, because it wasn't the other members. As far as the guitar, the instrument, so as best can be seen from pictures, he brought he didn't bring a guitar, but I think he brought a bass and a wah-wah pedal and a 8-string bass, a Hagstrom HB 8-string bass to the studio. Didn't bring a guitar, and the only guitar you can see pictured was a Gretsch Corvette. So that may or may not be the guitar that is heard on the next two songs. But it's possible. Either way, it sounds like Hendrix. So that's a little of the backstory. So now we're going to get to the material. Let's do it. So on that day, July 17, 1967, he did a song. They ended up calling it Hush Now. And producer Ed Chalpin, he was in court at the time with him, but still wanted to record with him. Drums, Ray Lucas. The guitar, there was a rhythm guitar in this. It could have been Hendrix doing overdub. There's some, deep looking at this, whether there was another guitar player, whether he did overdubs. There's a whole thing in the court case as far as what actually went down. And his recollection versus Curtis Knight's recollection is a little bit different. But that's just from, could be just from memory and their state of mind at the time. So, but key to this is the background, because these guys are a step above, I would say, this 1965 recording. So you got Ray Lucas on drums and Ed Bugs Gregory on bass and Jimi Hendrix. So this is just trio. This goes for both recordings. Yeah, it's trio with the guitar as first and with Jimi Hendrix with a wah-wah pedal, 1967. So here we go. Let's jump into Hush Now. And here we go. Check it out. This is post Jimi Hendrix Experience, but just after their first record came out, but him a little more extended jam. Here we go. Hush Now. Strap in, folks. This one gets a little wild. All right, I gotta pause it real quick here. Yeah, I love these changes. Apparently, he did do a song with the Experience. There was some recordings, which I was gonna play a little bit, but I don't know. Honestly, there's called like something with the Sam's laughing with the Sam's dice, laughing with Sam on the dice, something like that. But there's this change in there, but there's more to the other one. But honestly, I would put this way above the other one. To me, wasn't listenable that much. It wasn't much going on compositionally or the groove between the players. It was just lacking a lot. So maybe that's why he wanted to explore. He really liked the changes, the composition, the jammability of it, but he's itching to get back in there with some different guys that really could let him just get, relax and have fun with it. So it's interesting. But yeah. And I said guitar. There's a background guitar, and I wasn't sure who it was, but obviously he started soloing on that sort of little background noodling and things like that. So obviously that was Hendrix with doing the rhythm guitar, and then coming in was while the wah-wah was sort of laying back just a little bit, adding some funky blues licks into there. So a couple different guitars on there. But yeah, the biggest thing about this is the rhythm section. With Hendrix, because the drummer is a different style than he's doing. It's, to me, when I first heard this, I was like, probably in the 90s at some point, I was like, this is so much like, some at the time, like the Beastie Boys or some, 90s funk rock. So I was just like, the drummer, I'm surprised nobody had sampled this. Maybe they have, because this is just weird out of the box for that period. There's a vein of some, it's got some of the groove. It's slowed down a little bit, so it's a little bit slower down pace groove, but it's like, Spencer Davis, I'm a Man, certainly Motown at the time. There's some funk. James Brown was already, 65, doing, Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. So it's definitely got, a sort of slowed down funk to it, but it just sounds, I can't put anything exactly to it. Like what was he digging on that inspired this groove? Or maybe it's just a little bit more, he had the changes and the pocket just kind of found itself. So anyway, but yeah, this one is just stands out. It's like, okay, yeah, this is worth hearing for some early Hendrix jamming. But I'm gonna go back a little bit into this change. And let's do it up. Wow. I remember I first heard some of these, and I think I jumped into a car with some friends, and they were another guitar player and an organ player, and I know they hadn't heard this yet, and I played them a couple of these songs, and I just sat in the back, and nobody said anything, but I know they were just like having their head blown off, be like, where did this come from? Like, what is this stuff? Oh, it's just a little, Hendrix jam session, which happens to sound like freaking amazing. The drummer, he's got the steady beat, and then when he jumps back in the pocket to like halftime, or I don't know. I'm not a drummer, so I don't know all the lingo, but it's just totally two different feels. It's like you feel like there's a steady feel, and then it just drops back, and it's like completely turns you around. But yeah, it's amazing. And hearing Jimi just ride with it, it's like he can't do, there's nothing bad he can do. He can play it light, he can go crazy, he can pause. It's like so much room. It's such a safe jam and safe pocket to just experiment with. So it's awesome to hear him doing, he's doing all the little techniques and different, dynamics, the loudness factor. It's like when he really comes in, it's like pushing the boundaries of the mic without distorting, Anyway, that was Hush, I believe. Hush Now. So yeah, great. What am I going to get into now? Let's just finish it off. There's not much else. I told the whole backstory. So yeah, these were later released on a lot of different companies and different names, titles, different pictures, different. There's a couple different versions that I found. I've got like 3 different versions of this song, but that one was pretty much the best version I heard, as far as the rhythm section being really tight and good. Good volume in the mix and the clarity. But yeah, they've had some other. They had another version of that, and I think they had a different name for it, called like Lady Day something or other. And then another version of the next song is called Torture Me Honey. But all the versions I heard, it was called Love, or Love, Love. So yeah, we're going to round out this last little early Hendrix marathon, which, I don't know if everybody's heard this. I know it's not, if you're really digging deep, even for people that love Hendrix, man, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of people that haven't heard a lot of these songs. So that's who this is for. It can easily get looked over. And for people, looking out for live Hendrix and always looking for more quality material, this stands up to anything live I've heard. And it's just a lot more fun, because it's like, they're not known songs. They're not covers of songs he's already done. They're just him, just more of like a vibe. So anyway, let's finish this off with, we've been going for a while. So Love. Same members on this. Again, Ray Lucas. I should look up these guys because I'd like to see what else they were doing. But they were with Curtis Knight, so I don't know if they did much after into the 70s. But really, interesting drumming, great pocket. Ed Bugs Gregory on bass, Ray Lucas on drums, and Immortal Hendrix on guitar. So here we go. July 17, 1967. Love, Love. Here we go. Bass. my God. I'm going to breathe here. This is 3 minutes so far. I mean, it's so awesome just to hear this in such a raw. I mean, obviously there's some mixing here, there's stuff to bring things out, but this is not what you would hear if this was like put onto an album. It would be compressed. I mean, it would sound great, but I love hearing this in it's like straight out of the box, like standing there in the control room and just watching this, or better yet, being in the studio, just hiding in the corner. God, I love to just sit in the corner and just sipping on something and just watching the sweat go off his forehead, and just watching the fingers and the strings, and God, would it be amazing just to be there in the room. But yeah, I wanted to pause it because I wanted to just jump in, just get some context. So this was 1967. Yeah, the Monkees went on tour with them, had big hits with I'm a Believer, Pleasant Valley Sunday, Daydream Believer. So yeah, this was some of the stuff that was going on in 1967. You had the Monkees, obviously, although you had the Doors, Light My Fire. What else did we have? We had Stevie Wonder, Respect, Aretha Franklin, Soul Man, Sam and Dave. What else we had that we can jump into for what was going on at the time? We had Buffalo Springfield, Van Morrison, Whiter Shade of Pale, 1967 came out. You had the Supremes, you had the Jackie Wilson, Temptations, you had the Hollies, Spencer Davis Group, Give Me Some Lovin'. So this is Aaron Neville, Tell It Like It Is. I'm trying to hear some stuff that was like really funky that could have what did he hear that sort of thought like I should do this. I don't know. I guess that was about it. So you had some R&B, had a little bit of rock, definitely had the Motown thing going, and James Brown was around, so you definitely had that. But guitar-wise, who was I don't know if he was listening to jazz at the time, listening to other stuff, but there's nothing like really this psychedelic at the time that I know of. So anyway, I just want to give a little context of what was happening at the time. So and it's good to take a break from that because that thing is it's intense. So I'm going to rewind it a little bit. He's getting ready to. It's always an ebb and flow. Take a little break and then right back on top. Give the drummer some. Alright, turn around. Hanging back here. What kind of setting is this for? To me, it's such an extended piece. I mean, this is over 8 minutes, so this is like, for me, this is just like, I mean, this could, if you're in a state or at a party, like this could go on for a half hour and be like, what is going on? Yeah, who is this? How long is this going to happen for? It just feels like it should be on rotation. The ending should just go right back into the beginning. It's just, but I love how he's just sort of, he's going up, he's laying back, he's going up. Everything is like this sort of, he's regenerating, the dynamics and bringing it back, and it's allowing the drummer and the bass player to sort of refocus and, regenerate the pocket and what's going on. But I don't know. I love this so raw. And despite, the contractual problems he was going through at the time, I'm so happy that this exists, in this form, because this reminds me more like the Band of Gypsies stuff, this is like when he got a little bit more R&B flavor, more groove stuff. But you also got to hear his psychedelic side, what he wanted to do. Not as bluesy, the blues is in there, it's in him always, but anyway, see how many more times he's going to just sort of do little tweaks here and there, and how many times he's going to sort of just all out blast it. So Man, that bass was so cooking in this piece. Yeah, when did you ever hear Noel Redding do that? No, it wasn't that. I can see him trying to play this with Noel Redding. I mean, Mitch Mitchell was, fabulous. He was back down to nobody. His drumming was impeccable. He had so much style, so much technique. Noel Redding, yeah, not so much. So yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, the drums and the bass of this and are so strong that Hendrix can, he's so comfortable. He can lay out. He can, come back in like a bomb and just explode all over everything in there. And must have been, just fun. I know he used to, on some of these sessions, he'd get up in Curtis night and they'd go over to the studio guy at 2:00 in the morning and just be like, yeah, we got to get in there. Let's do something. The inspiration, when the mood strikes, you just want to let it happen. So yeah, fantastic. So that was Love. Same night probably as the previous song, Hush Now. Pretty close in their style, but definitely a different, allowed him to do some different stuff, different piece. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Some early Hendrix. As I said, there's probably, I think there's some output out there, like 3 CDs worth of 1965, 66, 67 recordings, but I would say these are definitely the highlight of those, as far as I can tell. Listen to them snippets here and there, and you kind of get the gist of it. He did one version of a song called How Does It Feel, which is obviously a very close to Like a Rolling Stone. He was a big fan of Dylan at the time. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. They take it to a different place on some of the, but definitely the main part of it, some of the main progression is right from Rolling Stone. So there's, it's cool to hear some of that stuff. But yeah, just hearing him going crazy is priceless. So yeah, I would include this in any Hendrix, important stuff to listen to. His main 3 albums, Band of Gypsies, and you got all the live stuff, and some of the post recordings. They're like, whatever they called it, it was the Easy Rider and some of his post recordings with the Valleys of Neptune. Yeah, some of those are great too. Some great stuff out there. But to hear the early stuff, yeah, totally different vibe. Hearing him just like going crazy on the wah-wah. Anyway, jumping into this, and next one we're gonna jump into a little bit of King Crimson family business. Some of the Gals Fripp, some of the Peter Sinfield, and some of the McDonald Giles output. So some of that early stuff from early Crimson, some of the other guys going out on their own. And so yeah, I thought we're going to steer clear of Crimson a little bit just for now, but I wanted to put some focus on some of the other members, because yeah, it's fantastic stuff. So hope you come around for that. And as always, thanks for being here. Love to hear your voices. Love hearing your comments. Take a great pleasure out of it. So I put something in the post, a little poll for, I want to do a whole album listen. And I think I picked debut albums. So there's like 5 debut albums up there. I want to hear what you think, which one you'd like to hear all the way through, how it should be heard. So again, appreciate it. Happy to put out some cool Hendrix out there. We'll see what happens with it. Hopefully it doesn't get blocked all over the place. But since I don't think it's Hendrix stuff considered, like this is not Hendrix. This is somebody else's recordings. This is, I guess, under Curtis Knight. So we'll see what happens with it. But anyway, thanks for being here. Give me some input, what you want from the future, and take care. Bye-bye.